Welcome to the College of Education 10-Minute Research Break, a podcast devoted to highlighting research by Illinois State University's College of Education, faculty, staff, and students. So grab a cup of coffee, get comfortable, and take a break with us.
Hi, I'm Tricia Class. Today I'm talking with Jim Thompson, professor in the Special Education Department. The article that we will discuss is a SoTL, that is, Scholarship of Teaching and Learning, research project of two large special education classes he taught, one with face-to-face class presentations and one with online presentations. I had the pleasure of working as the methodologist on this article. Welcome, Jim, and thanks for talking to me.
My pleasure.
Well, since this research was done with two large classes you taught, what were your personal motivations and teaching experiences that prompted you to conduct the study of your own class?
I actually took this class in 1977, although now it's called the Exceptional Learner, and back then it was called Introduction to Special Education. When I got the teaching assignment, it dawned on me that the format of the class, that is, gathering a large number of students together in a lecture hall and delivering content, had not changed in 30 years. I understood why it was a large lecture hall class because it's a classic overview course. It's based on knowledge standards and not on performance standards. That is, there's no emphasis on applying what is being learned in a classroom with children. The focus of SED 101 is to assure students acquire essential information about children with disabilities before they enter their teaching methods courses. And it is these teaching methods courses that are structured around performance standards and require an application or a demonstration of skills. So as I began thinking about the goals of the course, it seemed to me that an alternative to lecturing 2 times per week in a large auditorium of students would be to make enhanced podcasts of the lecture material that students could view at their convenience and as many times as they wanted. Also, the podcast would assure that I never ran out of time, that I always covered the material with the depth I wanted, and that I always said something the right way. However, I didn't want to simply leave it to my impressions on whether the enhanced podcasts or the face-to-face lectures were a more effective instructional format. Therefore, I chose to conduct the research study so that my conclusions would be based on data that were systematically collected.
Well, thanks. Could you explain how you obtained comparable measures of engagement, satisfaction, and achievement for the students in 2 different class formats?
Well, the Higher Learning Commission published best practice guidelines on online learning, and prominent among this commission's recommendations were the need to assess student achievement, assess student satisfaction, and foster student interaction or engagement. Our investigation focused on these 3 dimensions, achievement, satisfaction, and engagement, to determine if differences existed between students enrolled in the different sections of the same course, with the instructor providing presentations of content through enhanced podcasts in one section and through face-to-face lectures in the other. To measure student satisfaction, students were asked to respond to an end-of-semester course evaluation. To measure student achievement, we collected data on 5 tests, on 30 small group online discussion assignments, and on a library research assignment. Finally, 4 types of student engagement data were collected: a record of attendance in classes for the face-to-face section, a record of enhanced podcasts viewed by the online section, the number of course content questions posed in public for both sections, and the number of responses to online group discussion questions that were read and posted for both sections.
And what were the key differences, if any, between the 2 groups, the face-to-face and an enhanced podcast group, on engagement, satisfaction, and achievement?
Actually, the key finding was that there were not meaningful differences in the 2 sections. Sometimes my doctoral students will get distressed when they have completed a study comparing 2 educational practices and the results show no differences. But truly, findings of no differences are just as important as if data were to show that one approach was better than another. In this study, both approaches were equally successful. Students from both sections rated the course positively, and this finding showed that students were satisfied with their educational experiences in both sections. There were a few items where students in the face-to-face section were a little more satisfied. One was related to the extent to which they felt the instructor encouraged class participation. In terms of engagement, the vast majority of students in both groups were highly engaged in the course. I think this was the case because in both class sections there was a lot of structure that was built into the course that required student engagement. For example, each week students were required to post at least 4 responses to a series of discussion questions related to course reading assignments and materials. Actually, students in the online section scored slightly higher on the measures of engagement. In terms of achievement measures, there were no meaningful differences between the two groups.
What, if any, were surprising or puzzling findings that needed further analysis? And what were your implications for your classroom and future classes?
In terms of conclusions, I think it's very important to consider the findings in context of the class sections that were taught. This course was a survey, knowledge-based course that included over 100 students in each section. In this context, delivery of content was just as successful when it was delivered online through enhanced podcasts as when it was delivered face-to-face in a lecture hall. I did my very best to teach both sections well. If I would have not tried so hard in one section, then the findings may have been different because they would have been an artifact of teaching effort and not a reflection of the instructional format. The primary conclusion is not surprising, namely that both online and face-to-face instruction can be successful when a teacher puts the proper time and effort into his or her instruction. But I should add that the time and energy it took up to set up the enhanced podcast was far greater than preparing for the in-class lectures, and it would not make a lot of sense for someone to do all this work for just one semester. So I believe that one implication for instructors is to be in it to win it if someone is going to create online learning modules that include enhanced podcasts. It takes a lot of time. In subsequent semesters, I've continued to refine the online learning modules. I've also made the course truly a hybrid course. I use our scheduled class time for additional learning activities, including small and large group discussions of disability-themed films that are related to course material. We now watch 6 such films over the course of the semester, and I feel that this shared learning experiences bring course topics to life for the students, and it better engages them in the course material. We also use class time to review material for tests, complete a learning module about learning resources in Milner Library, which is a critical part of this course. And I also use my face-to-face time with students to regularly review course expectations and assignments to try and assure that nobody falls behind. Therefore, coming full circle, I feel that as an instructor, I've helped evolve the survey course in special education at ISU. I believe the hybrid course format where enhanced podcasts are used in lieu of face-to-face lecture is a good one for a knowledge-based overview course where the content is a mile wide and an inch deep, a course that has a large student enrollment, and a course that is offered at a residential campus to mostly a traditional student population. The challenge from this point forward is to try and make the course better and better each semester. Teaching is always a work in progress in my view.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I'm sure today's brief conversation will encourage others to read this article. The full citation for today's article is Thompson, Class, and Folk, 2012, comparing online and face-to-face presentation of course content in an introductory special education course. Teacher Education and Special Education, Volume 20, Number 10, pages 1 through 15. The citation can also be found at the website coe.ilstu.edu/research/podcast. Join us for future research breaks. Have a good day.
This podcast is sponsored by Illinois State University's College of Education, where we strive to assure that all students realize the democratic ideal through our teaching, research, and service to the field of education.